The young woman had already reached the door when I noticed something that made my stomach sink. Her hands were trembling, not the kind of trembling that comes from being nervous on a first date or rushing through a busy day. This was different. It was the trembling of someone carrying a burden far heavier than anyone around her could see. She glanced back at the half-finished plate on the table, swallowed hard, and then reached for the door as if escaping was the only thing keeping her. Together, what happened next would change both of our lives in ways I never could have imagined. Before we continue, if you believe kindness can still change lives, take a moment to like this video, leave a comment, share it with someone who needs hope today, and subscribe to the channel. Stories like this remind us that compassion, forgiveness, and second chances are often found in the most unexpected places. My name is Matthew Collins, and this happened in a small diner outside Nashville, Tennessee. It was a rainy Thursday afternoon, and business was slower than usual. I had stopped by after a long morning at work, looking forward to a quiet lunch before heading back to the construction company, where I managed projects. The diner was nearly empty when she walked in. She looked to be in her mid-20s. Her dark hair was tied back hastily, and her clothes were neat but worn from use. There was nothing dramatic about her appearance. She looked like any ordinary young woman, trying to get through an ordinary day, yet there was something in her eyes that caught my attention immediately. They looked exhausted, not physically tired, spiritually tired. She sat alone near the window and ordered the cheapest item on the menu. For nearly 20 minutes, she stared at the food after it arrived. Every now and then, she would lift her fork, hesitate, and put it back down. The waitress checked on her twice, but she simply smiled politely and nodded. Then, something unexpected happened. She quietly asked for the bill despite barely touching her meal. The waitress looked confused, but brought it anyway. The young woman carefully counted a few crumpled dollar bills from her purse. I could see her shoulders tighten as she realized she didn't have enough. She counted again, then again. My heart sank. The waitress gently told her not to worry and that they would figure something out. But before another word could be said, tears filled the woman's eyes. She stood quickly, embarrassed, determined to leave. That's when I got up. I walked to the counter and paid her bill before she could reach the door. At first, she didn't realize what had happened. When the waitress told her, she froze. For a moment, I thought she might simply thank me and leave. Instead, she broke down completely. The tears she had been fighting all afternoon suddenly overwhelmed her. She covered her face and cried so hard that the entire diner fell silent. Nobody stared. Nobody judged. They simply watched a person who had clearly been carrying too much pain for far too long. After several minutes, she finally sat back down. Her name was Rachel Parker. Over a fresh cup of coffee, she slowly shared the story she had been hiding from the world. 6 months earlier, Rachel had lost her mother after a long illness. She had spent nearly all her savings helping with medical expenses. Shortly afterward, the small company where she worked shut down unexpectedly. She thought she would find another job. Quickly, she didn't. 1 month turned into 2. 2 became 4. Eventually, she lost her apartment. For weeks, she had been sleeping in her aging car while desperately attending interviews and searching for work. What hurt most wasn't the financial struggle. It was the loneliness. Her mother had been her only close family. Every rejection letter felt like another door closing. Every unanswered application made her feel more invisible. That day at the diner had been her birthday. She had promised herself one small meal to celebrate surviving another year. But even that had become impossible. As Rachel spoke, I realized that what she needed most wasn't money. She needed someone to see her, someone to remind her that she still mattered. Over the next few days, I connected her with friends from church who helped her find temporary housing. One friend reviewed her resume. Another helped prepare her for interviews. A local family offered her a room while she got back on her feet. Slowly, life began to change. Weeks later, Rachel received an interview with a non-profit organization that helped struggling families find housing and employment resources. She got the job. The position wasn't glamorous. The paycheck wasn't enormous. But for the first time in months, she had hope. Months passed. Then one afternoon, nearly a year after our first meeting, I received an invitation in the mail. The nonprofit was opening a new community outreach center. Rachel was now one of its program coordinators. As I walked into the building on opening day, I saw dozens of families receiving assistance, career counseling, food support, and encouragement. And standing at the center of it all was Rachel. The same woman who once couldn't afford a simple meal was now helping hundreds of others rebuild their lives. Before we reach the end, I'd love to hear from you. Have you ever experienced an act of kindness that changed your life forever? Share your story in the comments below. Your words, thou itam PG, might inspire someone who desperately needs hope today. As the ceremony ended, Rachel approached me with tears in her eyes once again. This time, they were not tears of despair. They were tears of gratitude. She told me that on that rainy birthday afternoon, she hadn't just been worried about paying for lunch. She had been losing faith that anyone cared whether she succeeded or failed. What changed her life wasn't the cost of a meal. It was the simple reminder that she wasn't alone. That moment taught me something I will never forget. We rarely know what battles people are fighting behind their smiles. A small act of compassion may seem insignificant to us, but to someone else, it can become the turning point they remember for the rest of their life. If this story touched your heart, please take a moment to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and share it with someone who believes kindness still matters. Every interaction helps these stories reach more people who may need encouragement today. And remember, sometimes the greatest miracle isn't changing someone's entire life overnight. Sometimes it's simply helping them through one difficult day until they can believe in tomorrow again.